Why? Why are we here again? I thought we addressed this, James Charles. I thought we've been through this. We talked about this many years ago. James Charles is under fire for not following FDA regulations regarding his new cosmetic brand called Painted. So because James and I have been through this together before, why not go through it together again? I'm going to answer a few questions that I've seen floating around the internet. The first one is, did James know about the FDA violation as he was committing it? Next, how likely is it there's going to be a class action lawsuit against James for this violation? And with the class action, what is the likelihood that the plaintiffs will win if they do file? Also, what about the FDA? Do they have a claim against James? What is the likelihood that they will file something against him? What is the likelihood that James will have to alter the way that he presents his products? And then finally, are there any medical risks for the customers of Painted regarding the violations that he has clearly violated? We're going to get into all of that. Hang tight. Jumping into it right now. Hello, my friend. If I have never met you before, hi. My name is Jen here on this channel called JENLUV. We do a couple of different things. The major thing we do is makeup news. What is happening in the makeup industry, influencer launches, brand launches, lawsuits, stuff like that. We also do makeup reviews here. So if you are interested in that part of my channel, because that's not what we're doing today, I highly recommend my favorites and fails countdown that I did for July, where I count from the worst product I tried all the way to the best product that I tried. I also last week put up a fabulous swatch party where I swatched 6 of my newest palettes to my life, both finger and brush swatches, and showed you how to kind of read a finger swatch and a brush swatch to kind of see how it might apply on your eyes. That might help you when you're in store swatching to kind of get an idea of how it might perform for you. So if you're interested in that side of my channel, links down below. If you like the makeup news stuff, I do a makeup news show every Sunday called What's Up in Makeup. That is going to be your jam if you like this. I also recently put up a video about influencers and the new FTC regulations, the Federal Trade Commission's regulations on influencers and ways that influencers need to handle sponsorships and affiliate links and things like that. I'll link that down below for you as well if you like this part of my channel. With that being said, if you're coming back, hi, welcome back. You've clicked on this video on purpose, I believe. So let us get into what you came for, which is learning about Painted, James Charles's new makeup brand, and how it is currently, as of the time I'm filming, violating FDA regulations. For James's first launch for his brand that he's been sneaking for a very long time, he came out with these little paints. They're little paint tubes. You're supposed to specifically put them on your eyes or on your face to create very artistic kinds of looks. Clacked by Kevin James Bennett over on Instagram. I will link his Instagram down below for you. He is a makeup artist, professional makeup artist. He helps formulate cosmetics within the industry, extremely knowledgeable about this. He noticed that James in the red pigment is using not approved for eye use pigments. Those pigments specifically are red 28 and red 36. Fun fact, red 40 is the only numbered red pigment that has been FDA approved for eye use. The other one is carmine. Carmine is made from crushed bugs. So if you're trying to be a vegan brand, you cannot use carmine. You can only use red 40, and red 40 is kind of mid when it comes to vibrant red pigments. So what a lot of brands will do is they will use these other red pigments, and they will say, put a little asterisk, and it will say not intended for use around the eye area, or it will say a pressed pigment palette, or it will say a shadow palette, something like that, to avoid using the word eye, because using the word eye, showing the product on being used on the eye, recommending that it be used on the eye, is a violation of FDA rules. These loopholes have been exploited, I would say, since March of 2014 was the first time I saw them being exploited by Urban Decay in the original Urban Decay Electric palette. That was when everybody lost their ever-loving over the disclaimer on the bottom, freaking out, can I use these on my eyes? Now, this in particular in relation to James was a big rewind for me. It was a big deja vu all over again for me because James and I have been through this. We went through this in 2018 when James launched his Unleash Your Inner Artist palette with Morphe. And back then, it was still kind of new to put these pigments in eyeshadow palettes and then not call them eyeshadow palettes, but still market them for use on the eyes. So, for example, Jeffree Star and Manny MUA had released palettes very similar, but in their launch videos, they said specifically that these pigments were not approved for eye use, and they had, I'm going to link my original video down below of them explaining it. Well, when James came out with his video launched with Morphe, he did not go into any of that. He even went into a definition of pressed pigments that was 100% incorrect. Don't know why he said that. I don't know if he just made it up on the spot or if Morphe had said that.
Most of the mattes in this palette are considered pressed pigments and not typical eyeshadows. Now, what does that mean? I didn't know until very recently when I was formulating this with Morphe, but now I do, so I want to share it with you guys. The ingredients in pressed pigments are just slightly different than eyeshadows, and they are actually exactly what their name says. It is literally just the actual color pigment pressed right into a pan ready for you to use, whereas an eyeshadow has a lot of other stuff mixed in it as well to make it perform really beautifully.
The only reason why companies in this day and age, and even in 2018, use the term pressed pigments was to hide the fact that they had pigments in there, red pigments mostly in there, that were not FDA approved for eye use. And if you look at the ingredient list side by side, like I talked about in that original video in 2018, you notice that the ingredient lists really aren't that different. They have pretty much the same number of ingredients, the pressed pigment versus the regular eyeshadow. It literally is just the pigments used and avoiding using that term eye to comply with FDA regulations. So, how does this relate to James's current painted line? Well, as Kevin pointed out, he put these pigments in and did not put any kind of disclaimer. As of the time I'm filming, this is the description on James's website regarding the pigment paints that he has out. It does not say that these are not intended for the immediate eye area. He clearly shows the products on the immediate eye area in the advertising for the products. Hello, editing Jen here. I do want to give him a little bit of credit. I didn't give him this credit in the video. So we're pausing. It does say, keep out of reach of children, not for children under 3 years of age. I have never seen that in a cosmetic listing before, ever, but I mean, it is good advice. And then it says, in case of irritation, discontinue use. For external use only, keep out of eyes. It doesn't say what it's supposed to say, but it does say that if you do get irritation to stop using it. But I feel like that is just kind of a general statement that should be for everything and doesn't really address the fact that the pigments are not FDA approved for eye use. So I just wanted to mention that and give him credit where some little minuscule bit of credit is due. Now back to the video. So you may ask, if you're a James fan, how do we know that James knows that this exists? Well, it's because he commented on my original video. Here it is on the screen. If you are listening, this is what it says. He says, this was a very well said video. You hit it right on the nail. And the honest truth is that no, because of the fact that I do not do reviews and have never touched on ingredients on my channel, I did not even think to touch on the risks in my video, nor did I know about them because I don't have sensitive skin and have always just used palettes put in front of me with no issue. I definitely agree that I should have mentioned it and warned people with sensitive eyelids of the staining. I released this palette with fellow makeup artists in mind to see what looks they could create, so I assumed staining was common knowledge, but your point about my diverse audience definitely is true. That being said, customers should know whether or not they have sensitive skin, what their allergies are, and do their proper research on a product before buying it. So take that for what you will. I screenshotted this comment yesterday, and when I went on my phone to reread it before I filmed, this is what happened. don't know, again, if this could be a glitch within YouTube, or James could have deleted this comment because things are coming down on him regarding these pigments in the painted products. But he would have had to have deleted it very, very recently, like within the last couple of hours, which I think is wild. So when I heard that James had put these pigments in his current painted products, I was actually surprised because I knew he knew better. I knew that he knew about the disclaimer he needed to put, and I knew he knew that these particular pigments were not intended for use on the eye area. According to the FDA regulations and selling within the US, you have to put some kind of disclaimer. And to be clear, I was not surprised that he included them. I was just surprised he didn't put the disclaimer because so many brands are doing this right now. There are so many brands that fly through that loophole. James is not the only one. He is not unique. There are so many brands that do that, but they all put that little disclaimer thing on there. So the question is, well, maybe this picture right here with it all over the eye is not okay, but what about this one with it just kind of being drawn above the eye? You can read on the FDA's website, which I will have linked below for you because that's my job. That's what I do. I find all the links so you can read it yourself so you don't have to search for it. I got you. This is what it says. You may not use a color additive in the area of the eye unless the regulation for that additive specifically permits such use. The area of the eye includes the area enclosed within the circumference of the supraorbital ridge and the infraorbital ridge, including the eyebrow, the skin below the eyebrow, the eyelids and the eyelashes, and the conjunctival sac of the eye, the eyeball, and the soft areolar tissue. I'm not a medical person. I don't know about the parts of the eye that lies within the perimeter of the infraorbital ridge. Yes, so that's all that space. It's all of that. So James is clearly in violation of the FDA. It's there. He's in violation, period. Now the question is how likely is he to see consequences for this, that Painted could get in trouble for this, that he could get in trouble for this? Let us explore. So evidence here is that, to my knowledge, there have been 3 brands that have had class action lawsuits against them. There's differences within the different lawsuits, and I think those differences give us a good clue as to whether James will see any consequences, either a class action lawsuit settlement that is not in his favor, or the FDA coming after him. The 3 brands that I know of that have had class action lawsuits filed against them, which means that customers are going after the brands in a lawsuit, are Huda Beauty, Morphe, and ColourPop. Huda Beauty's is the only one so far that was settled in the plaintiff's favor. So this is what happened. It was filed in October of 2020. She was accused of not only putting the pigments in the palette and marketing it for use on the eyes, but also of hiding that may be unsafe for the eye area or not to be used in the eye area disclaimer underneath a sticker on the back of the packaging. Beyond that, the plaintiff accused Huda Beauty of irritating her eye. She says that she experienced irritation and burning that was made worse by the difficulty she experienced removing the makeup. So in October of 2021, Huda settled the lawsuit, citing expenses and uncertainties, meaning that the brand wasn't found guilty of anything. Huda was basically like, this is costing a ton of money. I don't want to do it anymore. So let's just settle this out. And what happened was that she gave more than 70,000 payments of $29 per item. That was the cost of the item. There were 3 different eyeshadow palettes. So she gave up to $87 per customer for the 3 different eyeshadow palettes. Along with that, Huda agreed to add a disclosure to her products and mark shadows with these particular pigments with an asterisk. It was reported that the cost of Huda Beauty as a brand was nearly $2 million for this settlement. The second lawsuit is the one for Morphe. It was filed against Morphe in April of 2022, where it was stated, quote, the application of Morphe cosmetics at issue to a person's eye area can cause severe eye irritation, skin discoloring and staining, rashes, allergic reactions, and other painful, embarrassing conditions that can reportedly last for days. So they were really stressing that this caused physical injury to the customer. Of course, Morphe did not have, like Huda, have a sticker that you had to lift up in order to see see that it wasn't intended for the eye area, but that did not stop the plaintiffs from accusing them of hiding it behind the title, behind the name of the palette, by using things like artistry palette or pressed pigments. They said that the only reasonable use for these products was application on the eye area, which was the comment that I saw frequently in my comment section and also when people were complaining on like Instagram posts and stuff like that. They also pointed out that advertisements showed models using the pigments around the eyes and that warnings like caution, pressed pigments not intended for use in the eye area fell short due to the advertising being more prominent for the customer than the small print. From the lawsuit, it said defendants actively instructed and encouraged consumers, including children, to use the products in a manner which defendants knew or should have known was inherently dangerous and unlawful. There were so many products listed in this lawsuit. The top one is the James Charles Unleash Your Inner Artist palette. James is specifically mentioned in the lawsuit as advertising the products for use around his eyes. So what happened with this one? Okay, I had to pay $5.50 to get this screenshot, so enjoy. This is what happened. Again, in case you're listening, this is what it says. This case is subject to an automatic bankruptcy stay. The clerk shall administratively close the file. This order shall not be considered a dismissal or disposition of the action against any party. If further proceedings become necessary, any party may initiate them in the same manner as if this order had not been entered. Basically, Morphe declared bankruptcy, and that was the end of it. They had no money left. They couldn't sue a company with no money. So it was just, they're like, well, we can't do anything about this. And it's over. But they're saying that nobody was found innocent or guilty. There's no verdict on it. So if the plaintiffs want to refile, they can. But who are they going to be filing it against? The people, the investors that purchased Morphe? I don't know. But that's how that one landed. So we don't know if this had played out completely in court, what would have happened. And then the final one is for ColourPop. And this one I thought was ongoing, but it doesn't look like it is anymore. The deal with this one is it was filed in September of 2022. It alleged that ColourPop Cosmetics eyeshadow palettes and eyeliners were, quote, adulterated and thus unlawful to sell since they contain certain color additives that are unsafe for use around the eye area. But the claim is a little different here because they don't claim that they were injured by the product. No one is saying that they were injured. They're basically saying that they wouldn't have purchased it, that they lost their money, that ColourPop misled them into thinking that they were safe for the eye area. They purchased the products, found out they weren't safe, and now they've wasted their money. In the lawsuit, it says the products cannot be used for their principal intended purpose. The products are thus worthless by virtue of the defect. So as I'm looking for this, I found there is an update. Bloomberg Law is the only place to find this. It is behind a very odd paywall. If I could have just paid to read the one article, I would have, but you have to like contact a rep, and like it's a process to get a subscription to Bloomberg Law. So this is what I can see. It says that basically this has been dismissed and in ColourPop's favor, in that the claims are implied preempted because they are based only on violation of the Federal Food and Drug Cosmetic Act, which doesn't allow private parties to sue. In my interpreted non-lawyer language, this is an FDA issue. It's not a lawsuit issue. It's not a customer issue. It's an FDA issue because the customer was not harmed by it. You can't prove that you had any issues because of this. Therefore, it's an FDA issue. The FDA needs to go after ColourPop, not a class action lawsuit. Hello, Editing Jen, back again. I reached out to my contact over at classaction.org, and she said that I did interpret what I could read on the website accurately, but there was something else in the docket that she wanted to bring to my attention. She says, quote, the judge allowed the plaintiff to amend her complaint, and she filed another amended complaint on April 27th. ColourPop then filed a motion to dismiss the amended complaint, and there is a hearing scheduled for August 29th. So in other words, the case is still ongoing. She said she's going to try to keep an eye on it for me, but if for some reason I don't see an update after August 29th on their website, to reach out again and she will let me know what happened. It is so great having contacts at some of these places. Thank you so much. Now we have a better picture of what's happening. So yes, yes, it was dismissed by the judge, but we'll have to see how this amended complaint rolls out. I will keep you posted. So with those 3 class actions, it gives us a clue as to whether Painted could be in trouble here. This is what I think. Again, not a lawyer. Unless multiple people are able to prove that they were injured by James's product, I don't see how anybody can win a class action lawsuit against him for this. As a reminder, not one of these brands was found guilty in the class action lawsuit. Now, could the FDA crack down on James? Yes, absolutely. There is a new filing system that's going into effect. We talked about it in What's Up in Makeup last week. It starts in October. And what they're asking brands to do is submit an ingredient list, or they can submit their manufacturing facility, who will then have the ingredient list available to the FDA. In this, the FDA could start looking at what is this product, how is it being used, and what is the ingredient list. But we have no evidence that the FDA cares about that and that they will actually pursue this. And honestly, my best guess is if they even do pursue this, what they will probably do based on other things that I've seen the FDA do is just kind of do almost like a cease and desist kind of situation where they'll say, hey, you need to fix this by this certain date. You need to fix this on any future products. And that'll kind of be it. They'll kind of be on notice. And then if they don't follow it, then they'll have to pay some kind of fine or, I don't know, something else might happen to them where they wouldn't be able to manufacture those products until they could prove that they were advertising them properly. And I don't think the FDA is going to care. Honestly, I think they've got bigger fish to fry. I don't know if anybody has suffered permanent damage due to these pigments. I haven't seen anybody say that they've been scarred by it or they've had a loss of vision or anything that was a permanent thing. It's mostly people talking about eye irritation around their eye or staining, stuff like that. So I don't think that's going to be an FDA priority. I don't think that the FDA is actually going to go after brands like James's. And that leads us into what is the actual risk to the consumer from products that contain these pigments like Painted has these pigments in them. Like I mentioned just a second ago, some people have talked about having hives or skin irritation that gets worse because they're trying to remove the pigment and it leaves like a pink stain, and then they have to scrub and then it gives more irritation because they're trying to get the pigment off. But nobody is talking about permanent damage. And these pigments are approved for use in the European Union, which they have more updated and better regulations than the FDA. It's kind of a universal thing. Everybody kind of knows this, that their regulations are just more up to date than the FDA's regulations. And they are approved there. So take that for what you will. If you happen to be a person that is sensitive to some eye makeup products, I would recommend looking and seeing if there is any red pigment in there. And if there is, you could be sensitive, but you could also be sensitive to other ingredients in eyeshadows. Eyeshadows have a bunch of ingredients. One of them that is very common to cause skin irritation is something called bismuth oxychloride. The pigment itself is just a rougher, scratchier pigment. You may not feel it going onto your eye, but many people in my comment section have told me that they are sensitive to bismuth oxychloride. And that pigment, my friends, is approved by the FDA. Make it make sense. So my final thoughts on this is I'm still shocked that James didn't put that disclaimer. I am very surprised. I thought we had been there, done that, and I didn't think that this would be an issue. And the other thing that I want to mention regarding that is that it's not just the red one that has these listed. All of them have those red pigments listed, including the white, which makes absolutely no freaking sense because the white, why would the white have blue and red and green and all of that? It looks like his manufacturing facility gave him a stock list of colorants to put on his website, but what he's missing there is the may or may not contain statement, which I think is really important to customers who are sensitive to certain colorants. Preferably, each one would have its own ingredient list, but if for some reason you can't do that, at least put may or may not contain on the top. Do I think James is going to face any consequences other than the court of public opinion? Absolutely not. I don't think that any class action lawsuit filed against him will win. I don't think the FDA is going to go after him. I think that he's just going to keep going about his merry way. But I do think this is unnecessary drama for him to have to deal with, and I don't understand why he couldn't just avoid it. It would have been very easy to do the way that ColourPop does. They still show pictures of the products on people's eyes. Just copy what they do. It's honestly really not that hard to do, and I feel like this drama was caused for no reason, and it could have been very easily avoided. But those are just my thoughts. I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comment section down below, in the collective brain of makeup awesomeness, where we help each other not to buy crap and to buy things that are totally worth it. I would love to know your thoughts on this topic. Do you think I am on point and correct, or do you disagree? Do you think something different? Do you see something that I don't see? Because I have one brain, I have one set of eyes. Sometimes I miss stuff. I would love to know what you think down in the comment section down below. Thank you again so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the thumbs up button. It really does help me out a lot. If you would like to hang out a little longer because you love this video so much, YouTube should be recommending a couple of videos for you right over here to watch, including one that I picked out for you special, another one that's kind of in this arena. YouTube's gonna pick one at the top for you based on your viewing history, but if you do need to go, I'll get it, no problem at all. Thank you for hanging out as long as you did, and mad love to you, and I will see you in a video very soon. Bye!